Hello, I'm David Martin, coming to you tonight from Flourish and Blots, and this is my presentation on the two graveyard scenes in Harry Potter novels, similarities, differences, and why there is a kissing gate. So let's get started. First of all, the books are about many things. Love, the hero's journey, etc. But they're also about death, and the author himself has said so. My books are largely about death. They open with the death of Harry's parents. There is Voldemort's obsession with conquering death and his quest for immortality at any price, etc., etc. This, of course, is something we all know. And one of the places where we see this obsession with death played out most clearly is in the graveyard scenes. So we're going to take a look at them. Now here's where we're going. We're going to first do a brief review of what happens in the graveyards, and then we're going to go through a couple of minor technical points I want to get out of the way, and then we'll look at the similarities and the differences. There are some surprising similarities and some surprising differences. Ready? Okay, here we go. First graveyard scene. This is the one in Goblet of Fire. This is the one when Voldemort comes back to life in a body. So let's get into it. First of all, you recall how it starts. The Triwizard Cup has been turned into a portkey. It takes Cedric and Harry to the graveyard in Little Hangleton. They are surprised to be there, obviously. Peter Pettigrew appears and on Voldemort's orders kills Cedric. Peter Pettigrew performs magic, kind of the Black Mass, and so that Voldemort is reborn into a body. Voldemort's Death Eaters come, most of them, and he talks to them. Voldemort and Harry duel. Echoes of Voldemort's previous victims come out of his wand, and they help Harry. Harry manages to escape using the portkey and taking Cedric's body back to Hogwarts. Okay, that's the first one. Now, let's get into the second one. This is in Hallows. Now, this begins with Harry and Hermione apparating into Godric's Hollow on Christmas Eve. You should remember that this is a time when they're pretty much at their lowest point. Ron has left them. They've come to Godric's Hollow because they think they're looking for the sword of Gryffindor, and they think maybe, just maybe, Dumbledore left it with Bathilda Bagshot. So they know Bathilda Bagshot lives there. So they apparate into Godric's Hollow. They discover it's Christmas Eve. They see the church. They decide to go in the graveyard and look for Harry's parents' graves. They find the graves of Kendra and Ariana Dumbledore. They notice Bible verses on that. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. They find the graves of Harry's parents with the scripture on them, the last enemy to be defeated will be death. They leave flowers there. On their way out of town, they find the remnants of the Potter's house and read the messages there. They see somebody who appears to be Bathilda Bagshot, and so they go with her. That actually turns out to be Nagini, hiding inside Bathilda Bagshot's dead body. There is a fight, and they escape, and that's that part. Now, a couple little technical things I want to get out of the way. So here we go. First of all, yew trees. Yew trees are going to be mentioned here. The yew tree is poisonous, and they're planted in graveyards all over Britain. They're planted there because back in about 1300, they had a problem. At that time, most of the land in Britain was in common, meaning people could use it for anything they wanted, and that included the graveyard, so people would graze their cattle there. And the cattle would kind of mess up the graveyard, doing what cattle normally do in the fields. So King Edward I of England told the churches to plant yew trees in the gardens. Yew trees are poisonous, not that the cows are smart enough to know that, but the thought is that the people caring for the cows will know that, and so they'll keep the cows away. That's the first little detail to take care of. Yew trees, they're poisonous and they mean death. Second thing I want to get to is the kissing gate. Now, it's not nearly as exciting as it sounds, though poets and songwriters haven't let that stop them. This is a kissing gate. It is a gate inside a fence. You see the fence coming in there from the right of that picture, and then it suddenly splits into two parts. That place where it splits is called the cage, and the gate is on the other side. You see the man holding it. Now, it's a little hard to tell from this picture, but that gate is actually just long enough that it hits at the edges of the cage. That is, you can't actually turn it out. So to get an idea of how people go through this, here's a diagram. People would come in from one side, pushing the gate away from them. They get inside, they pull the gate over, then they can exit from the other side. Now, what's the advantage of this? Well, the advantage of this is you've got a gate that people can go through easily without a key. Livestock can't go through, but there's no danger of anybody accidentally leaving the gate open. Why is it called a kissing gate? Well, the usual explanation is that the gate itself does not lock or latch with anything. It merely kisses the two sides of the cage. And such kissing gates are quite common in the fences that are around churches in Britain. So, okay, that's that. So now we're ready to talk about similarities and differences. We'll start with the similarities first. That's a fairly short list, and we can get through it quickly. So let's go. Now, the ways in which these two scenes are similar. In both scenes, two people arrive via magic. That's true. In both graveyards are connected to churches. Well, that's true too, though in one case the church is a little bit far away. Both graveyards have a way of keeping the cattle out with either the yew tree or the kissing the fence. This happened at the same time of day. For reasons I've never fully understood, the third task was supposed to start at dusk. And when Harry and Hermione arrive in Godric's Hollow, they discover it's already kind of late in the evening. They're holding a late night service in the church. Both scenes we deal with the parents' graves. That's true. We deal with Voldemort's father and we deal with Harry's parents. In both scenes we see the parents' houses. Now, I didn't mention that, but when Harry and Cedric arrive, there's a comment that they see a small house off in the distance, a fine-looking old house. In both scenes, we see support from other people. That is, Voldemort calls his Death Eaters to give him support and encouragement. Harry comes across that wonderful set of notes left at the house. In both scenes, death is discussed. Voldemort goes into quite a tale about how he recovered from being almost killed after his curse rebounded from Lily Potter. Harry and Hermione have a discussion about the scripture on the parents' grave, that the last enemy to be defeated will be death. And finally, in both scenes, you end with a fight. In the one case, it's Harry against Voldemort, a nice duel, and in the other case, it's Harry against Nagini, though Voldemort's on the way. So that's that. Now, let's talk about ways they're different. First of all, it's true that two people arrive by magic, but In the case of the first graveyard scene in Goblet, they arrive by trickery, by deception, against their will, and the first thing they do is somebody happens there is that poor Cedric gets killed. Whereas in Hallows, already we've got a different vibe. Harry and Hermione apparate in of their own free will, and it's quiet and peaceful. Both graves are associated with churches. Now here's where things get really different. In Goblet, we're simply told that they're standing in a dark and overgrown graveyard. The black outline of a small church was visible beyond a huge yew tree to their right. So the church is obviously not active at the time. Whereas in Hallows, hey man, it's Christmas Eve. We got the lights on, we got singing going on in the church. Light from the church is spilling out into the graveyard. It's a very, very different kind of atmosphere, very different vibe. Both graveyards keep cattle out, but, well, in the case of the first graveyard, they're kept out by the threat of death. In the second graveyard, they're kept out just by the kissing gate, which is a gentle way of saying, no, I'm sorry, the cattle and the sheep, maybe the pigs, can't come in here. By the way, it does say that Harry and Hermione edged through the kissing gate, so I guess you can kind of see why that is. A gate like that couldn't hold more than about one person at a time. Now we come to one of the interesting parts. When did this happen? I mean, yeah, they were both at the same time of day. They're both in the evening. But what's the date? And at this point, if we were doing this in person, I would ask that of the audience and give a chocolate to anybody who came up with the right answer. Now, see, for Hallows, we know it's Christmas Eve. That's December 24th. But what is it for Goblet? It's June 24th. Oh, interesting. If those two dates are 6 months apart. If you think of the year as a circle or as Earth's trip around the sun, those two dates are as far apart as you can get. One's 2 days after the winter solstice, one's 2 days after the summer solstice. I think Rowling's kind of giving us a hint. Hey, these things are kind of connected, but they're opposites. She did that by putting them, so to speak, in the opposite sides of the year. By the way, you should notice whenever Rowling gives an exact date of something, it's kind of unusual. She doesn't do that very often. I mean, yeah, we know that the Hogwarts Express is always on September 1st, and Harry's birthday is always on July 31st. But other dates only show up once in a while, and you kind of wonder. Otherwise, it's kind of at the beginning of April, ... or a few months later, ... But here she says very specifically, June 24th. Moving right along. We deal with the parents' graves. Now, in Goblet, that dealing with the parents' grave is breaking it open and taking out bones from the father. Not very respectful, not very nice. In the Hallows, we've got a really different thing going on. Harry and Hermione find the grave. They leave flowers that Hermione conjures, Christmas roses. You might look up the story about Christmas roses too, but that's something we don't have time to go into now. We see the parents' houses. In the case of Goblet, it's simply a short remark. A hill rose above them to their left. Harry could make out the outline of a fine old house on the hillside. That, of course, is the Riddle house that we've encountered before. And that's where Voldemort, by the way, has already committed 4 murders. He murdered his father. He murdered his Muggle grandparents. A little while later, at the beginning of Book 4, he murdered Frank Bryce, the Muggle caretaker of the building. And he shows no interest in that building. Voldemort clearly has no attachment to the past. Harry finds his parents' house, Harry and Hermione. Harry obviously wants to find it, look at it, seek a connection with his parents. We see support of other people. Now, in the case of the graveyard scene in Goblet, this happens because Voldemort calls his Death Eaters and they show up. The Death Eaters, whom he calls servants. He even tortures one of them with the Cruciatus curse. Forget just who and why. So these are not friends. Harry, on the other hand, he gets encouragement from the wonderful graffiti he finds on his parents' house. The most recent of these, shining through 16 years worth of magical graffiti, all said similar things. Good luck, Harry, wherever you are. If you read this, Harry, we're all behind you. Long live Harry Potter. So he's got friends and allies, quite different. There's a discussion of death, but yes, well, in Goblet, it's all Voldemort talking about how he came very close to death and how he's evaded it. It's very clear that Voldemort's only concern is avoiding mortal death. He doesn't mind splitting his soul, even splitting his soul 6 times. Turned out to be 7, but he didn't know that yet. And according to the way splitting your soul works, according to what Hermione told us at the beginning of this book, if you split your soul, you can't go to on. Your soul becomes vulnerable. Whereas in Hallows, we have this discussion, the last enemy that shall be defeated is death. That's strictly New Testament scripture, 1 Corinthians 15:26. And Hermione affirms to Harry the traditional Christian understanding and a belief of life after death. And then there's a fight at the end. In Goblet, the echoes come out of Voldemort's victims and appear to help Harry. And Voldemort keeps telling his Death Eaters, don't help me, don't help me. In Hallows, much less honorable. Whereas in Goblet, Voldemort challenged him to a duel. In Hallows, basically, Harry is ambushed by Nagini, poked into turning his name around, turning his head around, and Nagini almost gets him. Though again, Voldemort is sending orders to Nagini, hold him, because Voldemort wants to kill him. Obviously, Voldemort has a real thing about personally wanting to be the one who kills Harry. So, there we have it. The 2 death scenes, briefly summarized and discussed. What does this show? It shows that these 2 people have a very different relationship to death. Voldemort spends his time not believing there's anything worse than mortal death. Harry, guided by Dumbledore, guided by Hermione, comes to embrace the philosophy of the younger brother in the tale of the Deathly Hallows, and to hide from death, but then when the time comes, to embrace death willingly. And this is what allows him to walk into what he thinks is his death near the end of the last book. So, that's my discussion of the 2 themes. Thank you for your kind attention, and mischief managed.